What is up, guys? My name is Jake Nazuski. You can call me Jake Iggy, or Iggy for short, and this is Iggy's Sports Talk. So, that is a wrap for the Central region, and I hope you guys have been learning a lot from these past two division previews and have really been able to get a better sense of what the MLB is going to be looking like. So, now Robbie and I are going to be covering the Western region. So don't forget, go over and subscribe to ROBBIE HYDE because he has been helping me put a lot of effort into these videos so we can make them as informative as possible. Also, don't forget, go down and subscribe to Iggy's Sports Talk because like I've said in each of these videos, I'm going to be doing my best to get you ready for the MLB 2020 season. Also, please give me a big thumbs up because I'd really appreciate it. So, let's kick it off with the AL West. Let's hit it. So today, I am going to be previewing the AL West, and I am joined here with ROBBIE HYDE. And if you have not yet, go over and subscribe to his channel. He's going to be posting tons of videos to get you ready for the MLB 2020 season. And I hope you guys have been really enjoying these videos. Robbie and I have been putting a lot of work into these. And this AL West division kind of reminds me of the AL East a little bit. It's very competitive. There's a lot of teams where you don't know how they're really going to perform. And we're going to start off with the Astros. Yep, I said it. The Houston Astros, the team that everybody hates right now. And I think it's so funny that even though this team was able to win 107 games last year, lose 55, the last three seasons, they've either been in the World Series or just on the top of making it to the World Series. And it's something where everybody's looking at this scandal and just pointing fingers at George Springer, Carlos Correa, Jose Altuve, saying these guys don't actually have the talent that we have been seeing. I think that's absolute gibberish because you could say that about anybody just because they knew in 2017 what was going to be coming at home. To me, they weren't as dominant on the road as we saw. It just makes no sense. And I really think a lot of people still just stuck up and very upset from something that happened 3 years ago. Listen, they got punished for it. I don't think that they're going to do it again because, boy, did that kill their reputation. When you look at this team, I really think that they got so lucky with the shortened season because they was fans, forget about it. Think about those guys' mental state. How do you feel about the Astros, Robbie?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be no fans. Time has been on their side, considering, they've had 3 to 4 months off now. It's almost like people on Twitter are more just trying to get people to remember, the whole scandal at this point. I think, honestly, if any team benefits off the field from, the coronavirus and everything, it's these guys because it was a complete distraction. So I think mentally, I think they're going to be fine. They've had some more time now to, get refreshed a little bit. So I'm really just looking at the talent on that team. Offensively, I mean, they didn't have the most runs scored last year, but WRC plus wise, they were ranked first. They're a heck of an offensive team. There's just weapons all over the place in that lineup. Alex Bregman, arguably, you can make an argument he should have won MVP last year. Jose Altuve, a little bit of a digression last year offensively, but he's still solid. You had Yordan Alvarez, Rookie of the Year. My goodness, that guy's just offensively gifted. George Springer, one of the better bats in the league. Michael Brantley, still very solid. Carlos Correa, when he's healthy, is solid. There's just pieces all over this lineup. What do you think about the lineup?
I mean, when you look at another guy like Kyle Tucker, I mean, he's somebody who really didn't break out right when he came into the majors. I was looking at his stats in AAA, and, I remember when he got drafted, I remember following him through the minors, but I didn't think he had the power to hit 34 home runs like he did in AAA in 2019. And the one thing with the Astros that really makes me nervous, I bet you're probably feeling the same way, is just the starting rotation. They had Garrett Cole, they lost him, but you got a guy like Verlander who, he's going into his 37th age season. And even though, granted, he was 21 in 2.58 ERA, when you look at that, obviously, that's an unreal season. But when you look at pitchers going into their 37, 38-year season, you're going to see some sort of decline, especially in a shorter season. We could see his ERA probably maybe jump to like 3.5, in my opinion. Then when you look at another guy like Greinke, he pitched really well as well. But like I said about Verlander, Greinke's 36 as well. And you don't really know how the season is really going to wear on these guys. As we talked about through all these previews, pitchers have gotten very lucky with the amount of length of time that they've had to really rest up and be able to, get themselves ready. Mason Colors is another guy that I really want to see him bounce back. He came back from injury, had an above 4 ERA. But I'm just looking at that rotation. I really think that it's iffy, and I think it's going to hurt them in the end. And, Pagoda has them doing really well this season, obviously, just because of the team. They have them slated winning 35 games and losing 24 with an 83.9% chance of making the playoffs. And they're still going to be a top 5 team, but I just really see this rotation hurting them in the end.
Yeah, when you lose a guy like Garrett Cole, especially, how he was last year, I personally think he should have been the Cy Young last year. What do I know? I'm no expert. But looking at his advanced stats from last year, he was so much better than what even the stats on the surface showed. The guy didn't lose a game from May all the way until the end of the season. He went 15-0 to finish the season. He lowered his ERA from like a 3.94 to like a 2.52 by season's end. So I do wonder, because he actually was, he was fine in his, in the first half. I think he was like 5-5 with like I said, 3.94 ERA. So I definitely think he was way more valuable for the second half of the season for them. So it will be interesting to see how they will be in 60 games. I think the starting pitching, like you said, Verlander, and he was also dealing with an injury in spring training. So how is he? It seems like he's fine, but, once the season gets going, how's he going to be? Greinke seems to be always pretty steady. But like you said, he's not getting any younger. How's he going to do? How's McCullers going to do coming back from Tommy John? They do have Jose Urquidy, where he was pretty good in a small sample size last year. Joshua James is there, and he's okay. I definitely think the starting pitching is going to not be as good last year. I think the starting pitching will be a bit weaker.
Yeah, when you really look at guys like that are going, like I said, into the 37th age, 38, like getting up to that height of age in baseball, it's something where you get sort of nervous. But when you look at some of the batters, I know we were talking about pitchers and now I'm going into batters, but like Nelson Cruz, like Howie Kendrick, like who would have thought that those guys would put up the numbers that they did last year? Like Nelson Cruz, who was 40 years old, like put up over 30 home runs. You know what I mean? Obviously, pitchers and hitters are a much different, ball game when it comes to age. But when you look at another team like the Oakland Athletics, who for years to come, they are going to have one of the best young rotations in the league. When you got Sean Manaea coming back from an injury, and, he did really, really well, and he came back for a short stint. You got Frankie Montas, you got Jesus Luzardo, who could potentially win this Cy Young. You got AJ Puck, who knows what he's going to do coming back from an injury. And then when you look at this bullpen, I know you're a big guy on Liam Hendriks, but bullpen, the rest of it, forget about it. It's one of the best in the league. And you just got so many young guys in that lineup, young quality guys that have loads of potential, lots of power, can get on base, like Matt Olson, Matt Chapman, you got Marcus Stroman, who all had breakout 2019s. And it's something where this is such a up-in-the-air team. I feel like the Athletics, people always really look down on them, and then out of nowhere, they're going to win 95 games for you in a regular 162 game season. A lot of people have been talking about with the Rays and the A's, because of this shortened season, they're going to have a lot better, upper leg than a lot of the other people just because of their versatility. How do you feel about them?
I love the A's, honestly. They're one of the better defensive teams in the league, if not the best defensive team. Matt Chapman, Matt Olson out there, both very good on offense, both very good on defense. I personally think Matt Chapman is a guy that where I could see him winning an MVP this year. He was just so good defensively last year. He's already there and beyond defensively. And if he can just even improve a little bit with the bat, I don't mean to say improve because he's already very good, but even just add more. I mean, that guy to me has an MVP somewhere in his career. And I could see, in a year like this, I mean, I could see him doing very well. I think with the Athletics, a little more radio kind of talk here, but they got off to a tough start last year, a pretty slow start. I could see these guys coming out of the gate, like just they're motivated this year. They know they have a good team. They played very well last year. I know for a fact if I was playing on that team and I'm getting bumped from wild card games all the time, I'm going to want to get past that hurdle a little bit. I think this team really and they know that, they know the Astros lost Cole. So I think they can almost see blood in the water a little bit. I think this is a team where they know they're good. Like you said, one of the better bullpens last year, ranked 4th last year. Liam Hendricks is absolutely nasty. You can throw 99 on the corner. I mean, good grief. Mike Fiers, he was very solid last year. Like you said, Frankie Montez, Sean Manaea. Jesus Luzardo, to me, is one of the better pitching prospects to watch this year. And he even pitched in the playoffs last year. He threw 3 shutout innings in that wild card game. He's going to be great. I could see him really being a huge piece on this team. And just the lineup. And then you got a guy like Marcus Simeon, who had a wins above replacement over 7 last year. A lot of people are calling it a fluke, but it's not very often a guy can get to that kind of a level, both offensively and defensively. He was one of the better all-around players last year. I'm pretty high on Marcus Simeon. I don't think he's going to have a repeat season like that, but I could see that guy being like a 4 to 5 win, player in like a 162 game season. There's a lot of good pieces all over the place on this team. And like I said, I think they just got a chip on their shoulder.
I agree with you. And I think it's kind of funny how Pacoda really slated them or predicted that they were going to do this next season because, when you look throughout the standings throughout the entire league, the only 2 teams who have identical projection of records is the Oakland Athletics and Los Angeles Angels. And that inflamed me. I don't agree with that whatsoever. I really think that the Athletics are the better team than the Angels. But I thought it was so hysterical because it's 31.6 and 28.4. And it's identical for the Athletics, but they have them making the playoffs with a 40.2 chance. And as we talked about, this team has a lot of expectations. There's a reason for that. There's so much potential with this team, and you never really know what is going to happen. And like I said before, so many people put this team down and have such low expectations for them the past 2 years, and they go out and win 90 games. And I really think that this is the one year, maybe next year, where they could actually get deep into the playoffs, where they're going to get that first playoff win. And I really think, as you talked about, there's a lot of excitement with this team. I think it's really going to play into this season. And another team who has a lot of excitement, and I'm really not living up to the hype, if I'm being honest with you, is the Los Angeles Angels. So in 2019, they had a 72-90 record. But this rotation is something where everybody's so high on the lineup, and I completely understand. I see the numbers. I see the guys that they have in their lineup. But as we know, pitching wins games. Pitching wins championships. And when you have a guy like Heaney, who had an ERA of 4.91 last year, Tehran, 3.81 ERA last year, Bundy, 4.79 ERA last year. Where's the consistency? There's nothing to get excited about here. Other than Andrew Heaney, I'm high on that guy. He had a 2.79 ERA in 2018. Who knows what he's going to do? Ron usually has an above 5 ERA, so he actually finally got it lower than 4. So we'll see what this rotation does, but especially with everybody so high on Ohtani as well. You got to remember, he's coming back from Tommy John surgery. So who knows what this rotation is going to do? It's really all so up in the air that I can't
just really have too much confidence in this team because I just really think that the hitting is going to have to way overcompensate for the lack of pitching.
Yeah, the pitching was dead last year on Fangraphs. The pitching was as bad as it looked. They're going to need Ohtani this year, but from digging around into the baseball news, it looks like he's probably only going to be starting every Sunday, so he'll be starting every 7 days. So he's not going to be starting as much as other guys. I did like the Julio Teheran signing. I'm a big Julio Teheran guy. He gives you innings. He gives you an ERA somewhere mid-3s, mid-4s. He just keeps you in the game. I like Julio Teheran a lot. I was actually wanting the Red Sox to go after him this offseason, but hey, I think it was good for the Angels. They need pitching. Dylan Bundy is like, I don't know. I mean, he'll give you innings. One guy I really am going to pay attention to is Griffin Canning, one of their better young pitchers. I think he could be an X factor for that pitching staff this year. ERA mid-4s last year, but he had like around 9.5 strikeouts per 9. He's a young arm, and I think that could be something where he emerges this year. Could be a game changer for the pitching staff.
Bundy's a guy where when I saw that signing, the first thing that came to my mind is what a perfect situation for a guy who had so much expectation, so much pressure in Baltimore, because Baltimore was like, yes, we finally have Dylan Bundy coming up. Like, he's going to be the savior of the team. And then obviously it didn't pan out because he was coming off of multiple years of injuries. And, with pressure, especially young pitchers, that pressure can really get to them, screw their mental, and, you really see that ERA skyrocket as we did last season. So I think as we talked about with a lot of these pitchers, we brought it up with Trevor Bauer in the last video, but when guys have like a new scenery, when they have new energy and a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, I think we can really see Bundy have like a mid-3 ERA and actually really surprise a lot of people. But as I said, this pitching staff just really makes me nervous. But as I said before, like lineup, it's no joke. I mean, obviously they got Anthony Rendon, who's going to be a huge push, actually give Trout some help. And then when you look at a few other like small pieces that they have, they have Fletcher, they have Estella, who are both big producers, and they both hit around 290 last season. And then who knows what Joe Adele is going to do. He's a big prospect that they have a lot of high expectations for. And then also don't forget, remember the guy Justin Upton? He used to be a really good hitter. And then he got injured a few seasons, but he's still a guy that can hit 25 home runs. He's going to give you a mid-2.5, batting average. But when a guy's able to produce 20 to 30 home runs in a season, who knows what he's going to do in a 60-game season. But this lineup is no joke.
Yeah, I mean, you're adding Anthony Rendon to this lineup. That guy is a very good on-base kind of a guy, but he also can hit for high average, can give you a lot of home runs, drive in some runs. Surprisingly enough, the Angels, I know everyone kind of gets very high on the offense. Even last year, people were saying look at that offense, has Mike Trout. They were actually 16th in offense last year overall on Fangraphs. They were 20th in slugging. So they're not doing enough with guys on the bases. Adding Anthony Rendon is going to help that. He's going to get on base. He's going to draw walks. He's going to keep that lineup going. I think he's perfect for a guy like Trout. I think Trout needs someone like that. I think he can't carry this team by himself. He's one bat. Ohtani was good last year. He didn't pitch really, but he used a productive bat. So you mentioned Joe Adele. Joe Madden, he's been talking about him a little bit recently, saying he doesn't want to rush him too much. He thinks that there's still some things he can work on. I think Joe Madden was a guy who I think this Angels team, they just need to learn how to win. I think Joe Madden just brings that where he gets things out of players that, like other managers can't. So, yeah, the Angels, I think, are just a team where they've had talent, and they seem to it seems like every offseason they add like some kind of a bat or something, but they just need to know how to win. And I think Anthony Rendon, coming off of a World Series win, that in itself, you're adding an intangible right there. You're adding a winning presence. Winning is a skill. I mean, that's a thing. You got to know how to win games. So just having the right mentality to win games and everything like that. I think the offense should be very good this year. The pitching is questionable. Bullpen is a little they were 16th last year on Fangraphs. You got Hansel Robles. He was fine. Ty Buckshry was fine. Noe Ramirez. Cam, how do you say the last name? Bedroshan. They were fine in middle relief. They're just going to have to have some other guys step up. They got Kanan Middleton. He was coming off Tommy John. That bullpen's going to need some guys to step up. It's just a matter of, I think Joe Maddon's going to be good in that aspect where I think he's going to put players in the right situations. I think he's going to put guys in the bullpen in right situations. So Joe Maddon's always been like pretty good with bullpens. So I think he'll be good for that Angels team overall.
I agree with you. And Joe Maddon's something that I like that you brought him up because he's not somebody that I really put into my whole evaluation. And you're right, he really does have a huge impact. You saw what you saw what he did with the Rays. You saw what he did. He was able to do the Cubs when he first got there, and then obviously with the Cubs, everything's spiraled out of control just with guys not producing how they were supposed to or what people expected. But I think this Angels team is 162-game season comes around in 2021, hopefully. I could really see this team, especially if they go out and get like one more pitcher. This is a legitimate team. This is a team that I'm actually going to have confidence in. And when you get one more year or when you get one full year together, especially with Rendon and Trout, Rendon's there for 7 years. Actually, he signed like a huge
So
contract.
I think it was 6 years.
Something where right. And so like over the years, you're really going to see this team sort of develop into a winning competitive team. But, with this bullpen, it's something where I kind of compare it to the Red Sox as well. With that pitching staff, everybody's so nervous about how inconsistent it's going to be. And there's nobody in the bullpen that you can look to and be like, yes, that guy can get us out of it. I have confidence in this guy to be able to go 2 innings and be able to get us out of this bad situation. And so with the bullpen, it's just really iffy. And I think that the pitching in general is just going to be a really big Achilles heel for this team. And they're not really going to be able to show their full potential. And then when you go to like another team, like the Texas Rangers, who a lot of people are really underrating in my opinion. But when you look at some of the moves that they made from where they were last year to a team in 2019 that was able to win 79 games and lose 84 and really, in my opinion, disappointed a lot of people just from what they've been able to do over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. But when you look at this rotation, obviously they add a guy like Kluber, who's coming back from injuries and, didn't really have that great of a season. And as we talked about with pitchers, I really think that this long length can really help. And then you got a guy like Lance Lynn, Mike Minor, who really surprised a lot of people with strong performances last year. And 2 guys that are really underrated. I think it had a huge impact in the back end of that rotation. It's Kyle Gibson and Jordan Lyles, a perfect 4 or 5 guy. And they're not somebody who's going to, set the world on fire. But like I said, perfect 4 or 5 guy just to end the rotation and be able to give you some good, solid innings. How do you feel about the Rangers, Robbie?
The Rangers, to me, are one of the most interesting teams in just baseball this year. It's such an odd team. Like, I can't put my finger on it. I can, but it's more of like, I don't know what they're going to do. So last year, they would have, if you had a 60-game season last year, they would have made the wild card game last year. It wouldn't have been the Athletics. It would have been the Rays and the Rangers. So they were doing well at the start. I think one guy that was huge for the Rangers, I think what was huge for a good start for them was Joey Gallo. That guy, before he went down with an injury, he was on this ridiculous pace. He was like on pace for around like a mid-7 wins above replacement. He was on pace for like around 50 home runs. He was on a ridiculous tear. He moved to right field, so he was just more comfortable out there, and I think he was just able to kind of just focus on the bat a lot more instead of worrying about his defense so much. And Then he went down, and that's when you kind of noticed this team, because really after Gallo, there really wasn't much last year. And I think just the offense they weren't able to have any kind of consistency at all. So, but then when you move into this year, you got Gallo back. That's going to be helpful. Shin-Soo Choo, Danny Santana. You just added Todd Frazier and Robinson Chirinos this past offseason. Those guys should help. They're not going to break any walls down, but those are guys that can maybe help that offense kind of keep churning a little bit. Odor, he's going to hit some home runs, but I'd like him to get on base a lot more. Joey Gallo is the key to that offense. Without him, that offense is just going to tank. He is that bat that can, be that centerpiece of an offense. And then when you mentioned the starting pitching, who knows what Kluber is going to do? Before last year, he was just very good for years. So he's not like too old. He's around, I think, 34. So he's probably still got a couple more years left in him. How's he going to do in Texas? But a guy like Lance Lynn, this guy had like almost I think he had a wins above replacement, like very close to 7 last year. He was very good last year. And then you got Mike Minor. He's very good. There's a lot of pieces here. They got a lot of good pieces. Bullpen-wise, that's a little bit of a question mark to me. They ranked 18th last year. Jose Leclerc, his ERA is going to be a little high, but he will strike out some guys. They got Rafael Montero, Brett Martin, Jesse Chavis. They're okay. But that bullpen's really going to have to step up a little bit, especially in a short season like this when there's really not much wiggle room for error. So it's that's kind of where I'm at with the Rangers, where it's like they have pieces here. Are they going to put it together? So,
this is a team as well who has a lot of exciting young guys, but it's they also got some good MLB talent. In my opinion, they're just at that mediocre mark. They're just not over the hump yet. But like with a guy like Ronald Guzman, he's somebody who hasn't been able to show his full potential. Had like a low 2 average last year, hit around 10 home runs. But he's somebody who has some insane power, and somebody who I could see actually break out potentially this season. And somebody else that I saw is Nick Solak. He's somebody who in 116 games hit 293, and he can play second base, shortstop. He can play anywhere in the outfield, and so he's a great versatility. Guy that can play all around the field. And then somebody who really surprised me, who you brought up, is Danny Santana. 283 average, 28 home runs. Who knows if he's going to be able to replicate that in this short season? When you have that kind of guy who can play all around the field in your lineup, forget about it. And then one other guy, Willie Calhoun, hit 269 last year with 20 home runs. He's a guy who is still very young, and they have a really young and exciting sort of lineup, and especially if Gallo can get the wheels turning, I really think this team will surprise a lot of people. I don't, like I said, think they're going to be able to go over the hump. And, Bakota has them winning 27 games and losing 32 with a 6.1 chance of making the playoffs. And I really, like I said, I think this team's just going to be mediocre.
Yeah.
And then when you look at another team as well who, it's going to be interesting how this team really looks. They have the hardest schedule in the MLB. They were able to, start 2019 so hot in the Seattle Mariners. They had a 68-94 record just to end the season. But when you look at this team, there's a lot of really exciting young talent on this team. The rotation is very, very shaky. It's something where I looked at it and I couldn't believe some of the ERAs and some of the, performances that the guys had last year and who they're really relying a lot of their top of the rotation on. But I really see like a guy like Taiwan Walker as a big player, the comeback player of the year candidate. He in the last 2 years he's had injuries, but when you really look at it, in 2018 over 3 starts, I know it's 3 starts, but this is just the stats that he's been able to churn in over the last few years. He had a 3.46 ERA. 2017 over 28 games, he had a 3.49 ERA. There's a reason why Taiwan Walker was a top 5 prospect. And when you look at, the prospect list throughout the years, you can look at a guy and be like, this guy is 5 years later, he's crap. Taiwan Walker was always a really good pitcher for the Seattle Mariners. But when you look at the rest of the guys, you got Kajuki. Excuse me, I think I said that right. He's the Japanese pitcher who had a 5.46 ERA. Horrendous, in my opinion. I thought he was going to do a lot better. You really look at this lineup. They got a lot of exciting guys. A guy like Evan White, who in AAA, he 18 home runs. Excuse me, he did that in AA. So who knows how he's going to be able to make that jump. At the same time, when you look at another guy like J.P. Crawford, he was a big prospect for the Phillies a few years ago. Who knows if he's going to be able to live up to those expectations, but he still has a lot of talent as well. And one guy to really keep your eye on is Jake Fraley. This is the first time I've ever heard of this guy's name. When you look at the stats in AAA, you're going to be hearing his name for a long time. 298 average with 19 home runs. And so they have a lot of young guys with, I think, a lot of potential, and they still got a whole treasure chest of guys in the farm system that are just waiting, scratching at the surface to come up and make an impact. But how do you feel about this Seattle Mariners team, Robbie?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much there, but there's some fun pieces to keep an eye on. Kyle Lewis has been tearing it up in summer camp. He had 6 home runs in 18 games last year. That's a guy to really keep an eye on. Shed Long is a guy I'd like to keep an eye on. In Baseball Reference's simulated season, Shed Long was actually doing very good in there. The Mariners were actually in first place for a long time in their simulated season, which is pretty surprising. But like you mentioned, Taiwan Walker, that's a guy. He's still on the younger side where he still has a lot of time left. He's got good stuff. He has the potential there, and yeah, I'm really just looking out for these young guys. Jared Kellenick, their top prospect. I'm really excited to see what he can do. He's got a swing like a Steve Finley almost. I love the way he plays. Got a ton of swagger. Plays the game with confidence. Evan White, like you mentioned, good offensively, but very good defensively. Evan White is going to be a first baseman that's going to be around for a long time because he can do it on both sides. So, guy like Logan Gilbert, ERA in the low 2s last year in the minor leagues. So I'm really just kind of looking at this team for some fun because there are some guys that can really show some stuff. They have a bright future, and I'm happy to say that with the Mariners because it's like what has been going on with this Mariners team for years, and it's it's exciting. And they drafted a guy like Emerson Hancock, in this years past in the draft just a month and a half ago, where he did very well at Georgia. They got a bright future. There's a lot of good pieces here. Not this year, maybe not next year, but definitely at least in a couple years.
Yeah, I just see that this pitching is really going to be the Achilles heel of this team. I mean, with the back end of that rotation, it's something where there's nothing to really get excited about or have any confidence. But one guy to really keep your eye on is Justin Sheffield. He's a guy who was a top prospect for the Yankees around 2 years ago. When you look at it last year, there's nothing to really be excited about. In the majors, he had over 5, I think it was over 7 ERA. AAA, he had like a 6.5 ERA. And then when he went down to AA, obviously a 2.42 ERA. When you're a top prospect, you go down to AA, you're going to absolutely strike out everybody. But we'll see what happens. Maybe his confidence back. We'll see if he's able to show his full potential. This Mariners team is a team that I really think got lesser end of everybody else. As I said, that they have the hardest schedule in the MLB. So they're not going to really – the record isn't going to show exactly how good they are just because they're playing some insanely good teams that are a few years in their contention and in the development as well. And, they got a lot of young guys that are still trying to figure some stuff out. But I think that this is going to be a really good thing for these young guys and a big help for them to develop, to be in these hard situations, to go against these really good teams. And I think that it's going to really help them in 2021 and 2022 for years to come when those farm system guys are ready to come up. So when you look at Pacoda, they said they're going to win 23.9 games, lose 36.1. And this is the lowest percentage that they put for anybody from making the playoffs. It's 0.4% chance of making the playoffs. So now let's look at who will be the most surprising team and the most disappointing team in the NL West. What are you thinking, Robbie?
This is a hard one. This is a hard division for surprising, because it's like I would say the Rangers, honestly, because I think just in the minds of many people are kind of just like with the Rangers. But I could definitely see a team like them where, you know, when you got a guy like Corey Kluber, just 2 years ago, this guy was one of the best starting pitchers in the entire major leagues. Bring him back for this year. I mean, I could absolutely see the Rangers being one of the wild card teams. They were a wild card team last year without a guy like Corey Kluber. So, I mean, who knows what Lance Lynn's going to do? Who knows what Mike Minor's going to do? Let's see if those guys can, you know, have similar production. I don't think Lance Lynn's going to have that kind of a year like he did, but he's someone where he can give you something. And then Mike Minor, he's very good too. So there's a lot of good things. If they can just stay healthy and just do enough, I could see this team being a wild card. And then disappointing, I think just the Angels, honestly. I think a lot of people are high on the Angels. To me personally, I wouldn't be disappointed because I don't think they're there. I think they're still really lacking in starting pitching, but everyone is just, again, people love the offseason. People love those teams that can win the offseason. And, yeah, they had a good offseason. They got one of the best players in Major League Baseball this past offseason. They also got Albert Pujols how many years ago, and they never did anything with him. So, you know, people are like, oh, my goodness, Albert Pujols and Mike Trout. Wow, like this can be great, and nothing ever happened. So because they need pitching. They don't have any pitching. So I think to a lot of people, they're going to be like, what the heck happened to the Angels? Well, how did they lose without that lineup? Well, they got to pitch. So, yeah, honestly, that to me, Rangers most surprising, I think, and then Angels most disappointing.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say both the same exact teams, Rangers most surprising just because, you know, like you said, everybody has such low expectations for them. And, you know, they could have a lot of upside and surprise a lot of people. And, you know, the Angels, like you said as well, such high expectations just because they have Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon. But that pitching is just not going to go to the level that people really think it's going to be. And I agree with you. That team is going to be the most disappointing.
So that's a wrap for this division preview. I hope you guys really did enjoy this video and were able to learn a lot from all the analytical and informative information that Robbie and I gave you to get you ready for the MLB 2020 season. I hope you're getting as excited as I am for this season to start. Please don't forget, go over and subscribe to ROBBIE HYDE. He posts some great MLB content, and he's going to be helping you get ready for the MLB season as well, and going to be posting a lot of videos throughout the 2020 season. Also, please go down and subscribe to Iggy's Sports Talk. I've been putting a lot of effort so I can get you guys as ready for the MLB season as possible. Also, give this video a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. So, that is it, like I said, for this division preview. Look for the next preview so you can get ready for this next MLB season. Thanks, guys.